The Buntarelli Show.
Continuing our three-part revisit of the prequel trilogy, once again, I'm joined by a good friend, Khiim. Khiim, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we've had a great journey looking at these movies again, and I'm really excited, especially rewatching this movie, the conclusion to the prequels, the fall of Anakin, the fall of the Republic, the big turning point for the Star Wars galaxy. Khiim, how'd you feel revisiting Revenge of the Sith?
I thought it was great. You know, it was really good to see like everything kind of come to an end, but also like, you know, it's a new beginning. You know that the original trilogy is going to pick up. So, you know, it's just really great to see it.
For some reason, I remembered it seeming kind of forced and quick, but when I actually watch it and just kind of really analyze what's going on, I think like Anakin's turn and everything, I could see, like I'm watching it unfold, and I had like a really good understanding and like more of an appreciation for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. That's one thing that I was actually thinking about, is just like how you can see where everything starts from, you know, just like him beginning as a child, and then the kind of midpoint to where he's on the fence balancing back and forth. Like the Attack of the Clones, I would say, is his midpoint.
Yeah.
Overall as a character, you know, he was most optimistic in The Phantom Menace, and then you see there's some turmoil in Attack of the Clones, and then finally the tipping point and the delve into the darkness was Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, especially when you watch, like, you know, have the opportunity to watch all three kind of close together and really just kind of map out what's going on with him. And first of all, as far as like the cinematic part, I think George Lucas went into this one, I believe, and he kind of took notes of the things that were missing, because the best achievement, like when you're in that theater and it is open with that giant Star Destroyer scene, just like that big showcase of the war, and it really led into, like, you know, the Clone Wars cartoons and everything else, where actually to show that scope of what's happening. But what a beautiful shot in the beginning. You know, they have that Star Destroyer coming over, I think it was passing either Coruscant or the sun or something, but then all of a sudden it turns over and you just see this like grand scale war, and it was just like the visual, what a way to start the movie. Just like throw you in there in the middle of all this.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely did continue to deliver throughout this prequel trilogy. They as far as just like visually capturing the audience, they did that very well. For this movie in particular, I feel they kind of went with the same formula as the first one. I know you and I had agreed before, saying like there was an overload of CGI in the first one.
Yeah. And
then in the second one, they kind of laid off of it and there were more practical sets. But the first thing right off the bat when I was watching this one, I was just like, wow, they went right back to CGI.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that was maybe, I don't know, if they thought it was necessary to achieve the things. I think the scope of making that civilization and what Lucas tried to, you know, he tried to show, I think there was no other way to do it, maybe. I don't know. It's like the thing. You just want to, once again, you go back to that concept of like, he just knew that whatever he imagined, he can make happen. So whatever he had to do, he did. But as far as like the storyline and stuff going on, I mean, the stuff going on with Palpatine and just the Emperor and just watching his plan unfold. And first question I wanted to throw at you, and I caught this, the first part where Anakin and Obi-Wan, they confront Dooku to rescue, quote, Palpatine. It was like, I kind of wonder how much of that was planned. Like, I'm assuming the capture was planned. I'm assuming, but like, there was a point where Dooku's engaging Obi-Wan and Anakin, and you see this look on Palpatine's face, and he's just like it was a little disappointment. Did you kind of catch that? Where he's like, it's a little sloppy, man. Like, he just did not look happy with Dooku, and I'm wondering if he decided to make his plan, if that decision was made then and there, or what, because Dooku was definitely caught off guard by everything.
Well, I think from the beginning, from the get, I don't think Palpatine ever fully planned on keeping Dooku around either way. It wasn't a set thing. You know, he was more expendable. So Palpatine, in my opinion, is he's one of the most underrated villains that have appeared in the cinematic universe. Like, you know, I don't ever really hear anyone bringing up Sidious as like one of those big bad guys. You know, it's usually Vader that gets the light. But when you really look at it, like, Palpatine was very calculated. And I don't know. I think that in that moment, he probably had a few options. And he just kind of went with, okay, well, you know, if Dooku is able to take them out, then I will focus on him. If not, then I'm going to continue, because overall he knows he wants Anakin.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I definitely think he had his eye on Anakin since even 2 and episode 2, because even, you know, they kind of go back to that friendship and that mentioning, goes, you know, remember what you told me about your mother with the Sand People? Kind of like Anakin's been confiding him. So, you know, Palpatine's known what he has in him, what he's capable of. And I think whether his decision was made then or whatever, but as far as like his manipulating everything and to like jump ahead, but we'll jump back. But even like, if you look at the grand scope of the plan and what the plan was and like why the war and Order 66, like what better way? How else is one Sith going to take down a team of Jedi like that and catch them off guard? It was just like all the chess pieces were put in the right place. And also, like you've referred to before, of the Shroud of the Dark Side, where nobody could really feel what's happening. But like that Order 66 scene, like what are you going to do when all of a sudden your entire army turns on you in a split second? Who could have saw that coming? I mean, that was really a brilliant plan, because you know, Palpatine took on like 4 or 5 Jedi when he initially engaged him, but he wasn't going to take down everybody at once. There was no way.
Everybody was on different parts of the universe, basically, in the galaxy. Like, there's no way even people could rally up and be like, oh, hey, we need you over here. Like, everybody's light years away.
Even when things go down, you know, it was like, like Mace Windu.
Anyone could do.
And Mace Windu had to make that decision real quick. He's like, okay, we got to move in real quick. He couldn't consult with Yoda. He couldn't, you know what I'm saying? It just like,
he had to just make a move.
Yeah, the Jedi were all spread out, and it was just like, it was well played. It was just well played, and especially to go back with the stuff going on with Anakin and that situation he was put in, and we kind of talked about it in 2, how things were going on with him and nobody was just paying attention, and he slipped through the fingers. But the way the Jedi played this thing, that situation Anakin was put in, it was just a big mess up by the Jedi. It was just, I don't understand one thing, and I'll tell you that I feel like they should have just made him a Jedi Master. You know what I mean? It seemed like, okay, they want him to do something for them, but they're half punishing him too. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to say, look, we need you to, like, okay, let me start all over. He has to pick a side, and they know he's close to Palpatine. So the fact that they just said, like, well, we're not going to give you Master, it was just stupid. And I think it was like they were trying to dangle a carrot in front of his face, and it just blew up in front of their face, because you basically asked them to do something and then just, you know, I don't know. It was just so many mistakes that they made handling that situation.
To elaborate on that, how you mentioned just like this trilogy really showing the grand scope of everything in the Star Wars universe. Me just like watching it, like I just come, like you said, you start calculating things and mapping things out. To me, it was just coming down to where it's like the light users, like if you kind of just look at their mentality, they're and even Sidious says it, the dark side users were, if their ways were seen as unnatural. So then the opposition would have to be that the light side users were all about natural ways and like basically physicality. And you see that in their mentality. They're all about being like physically trained and mentally trained and just, you know, very disciplined, like order, like controlling physicality around them. Whereas the dark side users, they don't care about that. You know, I think that It was more so just a way to try and fully pull Anakin to the light side. Because if you think about it, really, master is just a title.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether or not they call you a master, you're still on the council. And I feel like they were kind of just trying to get him to see that, to break that seed of darkness that was there in his mind, you know? Because
that's true.
At the end of the day, they don't want you clinging on to titles, to love, to, you know, all that kind of stuff, because it holds you back as a light user.
That's true. I didn't think of it that way. It wasn't. See, I took it as a way they were just like saying, they were just. I took it as they were just mad about this whole thing with Palpatine, you know, having a representative. That was their way of saying screw you. I don't now the way you say it, you're saying it's more of like they're still trying to develop Anakin and say like, no, we're not just going to give you the title because we're going to play ball, but you personally need to develop. And
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As soon as Sidious basically dubs him Vader, Lord Vader, he goes on rampage. He gets some power and he goes on rampage, you know?
Because once he goes dark, he goes dark. And then I looked at it again. And it was like it was him killing Mace Windu. That was it. Because he was torn, and once you threw Mace Windu out the window like Anakin do, like there's no turning, or in his head, he goes, that's it. There's no turning back. I'm in. I made my choice. And that's what. Yeah. But once he did it, he's like, well, there's no going back to the Jedi. I have to go down this road. And he just did. Yeah. He said, I pledge myself. I will do. And like I said, I had a better understanding of it now. I used to think it was a little forced and unnatural, but it really wasn't. It was, you know what I'm saying? I really just watched it play out like, yep, he knew. Like, I got to do this now. Are you looking to make some extra money? Have you considered driving for Uber? Well, right now, the Bunzarelli Show has teamed up with Uber to bring you this special offer. If you use our link to sign up as a driver, Uber will guarantee $200 on your first 30 trips, or they'll pay the difference. Terms and conditions may apply. Go to uber.bunzarelli.com for more information, or look for the link on this episode description. When Luke was on in Empire, when Luke was on Dagobah, and he's like, I have to go help my friends, and Yoda and Obi-Wan are saying, like, you can't, you'll fail them, you'll fail everything they fight for. And I didn't understand it at first, the way they made it so kind of vague and everything. But when you actually compare it to what went down with Anakin, it really makes a lot of sense, because that was the whole thing with Luke. Luke wanted to protect. He wanted to protect Han and Leia. You know what I'm saying? And he just felt like he had the power to do it. And that was the same thing going on with Anakin, because it wasn't out of love. It was out of a desire to control. He believed it was love, but he just wanted, and, you know, he said it in episode 2 when his mother died. You know, he had no control over that. And I think that's what it really comes down to. It is the words Yoda said. It's like fear of loss, control, possession, that kind of thing. I think that's where they were heading towards Luke. Like, Luke, your mind is not right, and they were a little worried about that. But now I understand it more, what they were talking about. Yeah, definitely. It really does. It makes more sense when you look at it. When you really sit down and just look at everything. Let me ask your thoughts on the prophecy of the Chosen One, and I'll throw you mine. Because there's lots of different people. Some people make it a little simple. Some people make it. What is your interpretation of the Chosen One prophecy? My interpretation of the Chosen One prophecy, I think personally that it's not just to rid the Sith. I think that both the Sith and the Jedi they're both evil in different ways. Mm-hmm. You know, like they both have their faults, and I think that by Anakin killing all of the Jedi, that was the first part. Because then there's no more Jedi. And then by Luke coming and finishing off the Sith, that was the second part. That's what brought balance. Had all the Jedi still survived and then only the Sith were gone, I don't think that there would have been balance in the Force. Yeah, I kind of take it the same way. I take it like it was unbalanced before with just a Jedi, because the Jedi is protecting the Republic, and now the Republic's become this corrupt, bloated thing. And even Palpatine kind of played upon that. And I also think, like, as far as Anakin being the chosen one, yeah, I took it as he just put big dents on both sides. Okay, here's my read on as far as like him being able to kill him, throwing Palpatine down the shaft. There's a couple things behind that, because if you go back to that scene in Empire where he goes, in Jedi, where he goes, my son is on that ship, and Palpatine goes, oh, strange, I haven't sensed him. I wonder if your feelings on this are clear, Lord Vader. Okay? And I go back to the fact that, like, maybe Anakin was more powerful than he realized. But I never knew if Vader was trying to hide his thoughts from Palpatine, or was he so focused on Luke that Palpatine not notice. But the point being was, I don't think anybody could have got the jump on Palpatine the way Vader did. I don't think Palpatine did not see it coming. It was a quick move, and it happened. And a lot of that goes back to, okay, so Anakin's turning point is this. It's selfishness versus selflessness. So he turned to the dark side really for himself. As much as he wants to think it's about Padme, it's about him. But when he turns and he's looking at Luke and he's watching Luke die, and he's just in his head, he's like, no. He's like, no, this guy, Luke actually reached out, because Luke reaches out to Vader in love. Luke really just goes there and just tries to save him. It doesn't even have the connection that Padme had. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think Vader actually felt love, and he's watching this, and once again, split-second decision again,
And I think a lot of it would have had to do with Palpatine is that he kind of just got comfortable in himself, because him being the master tactician.
Yes.
He, like, if we go towards the end of the movie, when I was like thinking about Padme dying, and him basically openly boasting, saying that he has control over life and death. He learned it from his master, Darth Plagueis. So when Padme is dying and the nurse or whatever, the doctor comes up and says, we don't know why Padme is dying. She's in top physical health. She's just losing her will or something. I was wondering, is Sidious killing her? If he has the power to give life and keep something alive, can he also take life? And then he goes and tells Anakin, you killed her, to make him hate himself for all eternity, basically, to keep driving that dark side. You live with that for the rest of your life, because had Padme not died, I don't think that Anakin or Vader would have had done the things to follow afterwards, because he would have been worried about Padme. Padme was that last tether to any light that was left in him.
Yeah. It was the last piece of Anakin.
Padme was out the picture. There was nothing left he had to lose. He was fully in darkness. And I really think that Sidious killed her. And once he did that, he just got so comfortable that he let his guard down. It's part of canon in the Star Wars universe that Sidious built Vader's suit to constantly keep him in pain and, just basically have control over him. And his suit was weak against Sidious lightning, so he could use that against him and all that stuff. He thought of everything, but he didn't, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, the Luke thing, he couldn't have seen that coming, because he just figured Vader was him, especially that, after you killed Padme or, Vader, however, the fact that Vader blamed himself for Padme's loss, and just so if you have no Jedi left and he's done with Obi-Wan, and then there's Padme, so there's nothing. He just shuts down into himself. And a lot of that comes to, there's some thoughts about, if you go to Rogue One, the fact that Vader's castle is on Mustafar. It's almost like it's been said that it's like a constant reminder. I forget if it says that Palpatine put him there or he did it himself, but it's almost like a constant punishment of himself. You know what I mean? It's like that's where he failed on every level. Like he killed, that's where Padme died, or he choked Padme. It's where he lost to Obi-Wan. So it's like a constant it's like he's constantly living in his own failure. Yeah. Just constant torment. It's crazy if you really explore the character of Vader and how they just open him up and everything.
And just knowing that all of that negative type energy basically fuels the dark side. I wouldn't say that it's far to reach that Sidious may have put him there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he said,
because
like,
that's what Darth Sidious wanted. He just wanted to manipulate Vader.
yeah,
Like, he didn't want, he knew the rule of two, and I think that he was trying to break it. He wanted just another person that he can control forever, basically, and not have to worry about him killing him.
yeah, because Anakin was pretty powerful, at least the way people thought. And I don't know how into the Chosen One prophecy Palpatine was, but I think it was really important for him to keep Vader in that corner. And even though Vader didn't play his role, even though, the Emperor already had down the part where they're going to control the galaxy. So even as far as like being, Vader was more of like a representative. He was like, the vision of fear. You know what I'm saying? Like the hitman and everything is like, right.
Yeah, he was the attack dog.
Yeah, we're sending Vader in, we're putting Vader in. And then later Vader would kind of rise up the ranks. I think it actually happened within, the original trilogy where he actually started stepping up after Tarkin died and the Death Star and all that. But when we talk about the Jedi's flaws, I think Palpatine kind of knew how the Jedi would play things and just kind of fed into it when he was saying things like, when they were zeroing in on Grievous, who, by the way, I don't think Grievous had any idea of any of the plan. Like, I really feel like Grievous thought he was serving the Separatist mission. Yeah. Did you kind of catch that? Like, he goes, what about Count Dooku? He goes, that's okay, more powerful apprentice. He goes, okay, whatever. He's just doing his job. But when they were like going to zero in on Grievous, and, Palpatine said, he goes, I'd be surprised if they didn't send you. And then, when they send Obi-Wan, that's not them putting Anakin in his place. It was a legitimate thought. They're like, we need a more experienced Jedi, And Yoda said that. And so it's like, it's almost like the things that Yoda says is like, aren't as... Yoda said very little as far as a decision making, but that was just a plain, like, there was no emotion in that statement. He goes, no, we need a more experienced Jedi for Grievous. Yeah. Which is true.
When Windu comes off sometimes, it just seems very judgmental in the moment.
Yeah, Windu kind of just plays it out like Windu's got a problem up his butt with Anakin or something. Like Windu, but Yoda's very, like, kind of in the middle. Even when they say things like, when Mace Windu says things like, hey, we're going to have to take control of the Senate for a peaceful transition. And Yoda's like, this is a real dark place we're going. You know what I mean? Like this whole thing. Yoda knew in the beginning and too, like the war. He goes, none of this is good. This whole situation is bad. Yoda was like really the one to catch on to that.
Well, I think Windu knew as well too, because I know I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned before that Windu, like his style of lightsaber combat, it requires him to know dark side abilities. So him being a Jedi as a person, he's more in tune with both sides. So I think he was just kind of always calling it as it is, Yeah. Like, I know, because you can see it in Mace Windu himself. He has dark features to himself. Even when he's fighting, he seems angry. The way he carries himself, he seems angry, like he has, but he uses light to find balance. He doesn't go all the way into the dark. And I personally think that's why he was able to defeat Sidious where Yoda fell short.
Yeah, because Windu almost had him,
He did have him.
Yeah.
He did have him. He could have struck him down had he not been going back and forth trying to convince Anakin why what he was about to do is the right thing to do, or in his opinion, whether or not it was. But, had that dialogue all been cut, Windu would have been killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, he had him. It's so funny how everything was just like just little moments. They almost had it. And then they, it was.
But then again, I don't know, because you have to look at Sidious's behavior throughout that whole scene. It was just very acted. He knew what was going on, and he was just playing upon it. Like let me play the victim. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah.
And can strike him down. And then he's just like, oh, I'm all powerful. Power. Like,
yeah.
He was playing the whole thing the whole time. So I don't know. He may have knew that Anakin was going to come and not obey Mace Windu's orders. He knew that Anakin was going to, again, be put in between a rock and a hard place. And that he needed that step to continue down the path of darkness. So I don't know. It's just like how much of what happened was actually calculated by Sidious, and it well could have been everything, you know.
Yeah, the whole thing was just masterfully played.
It was.
It was just everything.
And I like the fact that with Sidious, they didn't really use any kind of tropes to be like, oh, I'm really the bad guy, ha ha ha, you know.
No,
like, it was very gracefully done through all three films. There wasn't any kind of cringeworthy moments where it's just like, okay, we get it, he's the bad guy. There were none of those.
Somebody was explaining why the ships looked a little more plain and white, and not as glamorous as like the older ships of the Old Republic. And I think it was more of like a statement, because the Empire was still kind of like their bragging right was the corruption of the Old Republic and like all the glitz and glamour of it, so, which was also probably like the plain military, like scary look of that, just those plain white ships. But that was the explanation I heard. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is the way to look at it, because I've always wondered the same, of just why like this prequel universe was so colorful and just so many tones going on, and then the original trilogy, it was just very monotone.
I don't know. Like, a lot of the ships kind of played both sides of the field. Like, the X-Wings are on the side of the Republic, but then they become like the side of the rebellion. Even though the Empire becomes, kind of like some of the ships kind of jump sides, whichever side was. And they kind of covered that in Last Jedi, which I was actually glad. Like, wow, somebody finally explained it. Pretty simple. It's like, it's these same weapons manufacturers selling to both sides. I'm like, you know what?
Contractors, yeah.
I like that answer. It's like, that sounds great. It's like, if you buy a Lamborghini, if you're going to rob banks or you're going to go to the beach, you're still buying a Lamborghini. So I really like that, like, explanation of everything. So I bought into that. The big heart of the movie, like the big intense part. And I really, all right, there's two main lightsaber fights at the climax. There's the Yoda and Palpatine fight. But really, I don't think there's been anything as far as the emotional stance and like the power of anything. Is just that Anakin Obi-Wan fight at the end is so intense, even the conversation leading up to it. But I think that might be one of the best duels as far as like the action and like what it meant, the intensity, that Anakin Obi-Wan fight. Yeah,
I agree that it definitely carries more weight than any of the previous fights we've seen throughout the movies.
Mm-hmm.
It just really is like that last chance. Can Obi-Wan save him? Can Obi-Wan convince him? Or is this it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It was very, that and Order 66 to me were just very like, they were the gravity holding moments of the movie.
Yeah. Just that powerful, just everything changing and turning, but just that Mustafar was like the last stand. And yeah, Obi-Wan was trying to reach out to him, but not to where he got distracted. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like Obi-Wan's
exactly.
like, I'm going to try to reach out to you, but if I can't, you're going down. And that almost goes to that line where, Vader says to Luke, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Because he did try to reach out, but in the end, he just said, you're lost. And it was just a little mistake at the end because, you see Anakin on fire with no arms, no legs. You pretty much figure he's done and you get out of there. But
well, there was one thing that I had actually saw that was talking about the last battle of Mustafar, and just that Obi-Wan always went over. He kind of had his own torment of just always going over the moment when Qui-Gon died and his fight with Darth Maul, and they had said that basically that kind of awkward line of "Don't do it, Anakin, I have the high ground," just basically goes back to that moment that he's played over in his mind over and over of when he killed Darth Maul. Darth Maul had the high ground. So he himself has always trained for that moment, for that to happen to him. And that's why he warned him. And, Sidious himself says, oh no, Vader is in trouble. Like he knows, he knew Vader was not going to win that fight. Like that's Obi-Wan trained him, everything Anakin knows, Obi-Wan knows and more.
Yeah.
So like, Obi-Wan just basically they had already trained for that moment, but Anakin was so into himself because he's got new dark side powers. That's why he replies. He's like, you underestimate my power now.
Yeah.
He thinks just because now he's in the dark side, past this training moment that they've been in before, he can now overcome it. And that's why when he jumped, Obi-Wan just knew exactly what to do. You know, it's something that he's played in his mind over and over. And when I heard that, I was just like, wow, that really makes sense.
And if you bring that into the fight, it kind of really, you know, like just them keeping up with each other, you know, you make a good point that they know each other's fighting styles. They've been fighting alongside each other. And that's, you could bring that into why that fight was so intense and almost seemed so choreographed. Obviously it was, but what I'm saying is you could make that, you know, how they're just hit. They just know each other. They just they just know each other's, and just Anakin's like arrogance at the end and his just blindness from the dark side. Yes, he was just so consumed with power. He didn't realize how it was a stupid move what he did at the end with Obi-Wan. Yeah, that set him up.
Obi-Wan's just like, I've been in your place. I know what you're about to do. Don't do it.
And a Duel of Fates, that music, I love that piece of music when they keep
John Williams.
Yeah, he brought it into. It started with
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Phantom Menace, the duel with Darth Maul, and I think I don't think it showed up in 2. But it just came back and just plays out beautifully. That scene, it just captures like the intensity and everything. You know, just that just that intense, like perfect for that. I'd like to actually see that piece of music again. And I would like, and you know what, I was watching again, like the moments when like Padme's funeral, you know, as much as they try to distance themselves from Jar Jar and the Gungans for whatever reasons, right or wrong, I like the king shows up for the funeral of Naboo.
Yeah.
And that made it like that, it brought you back to where it all began, kind of brought the whole thing to full circle. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Like that was,
agree.
And but moving forward, like with the new trilogy, so the little that's been said is the next movie after The Last Jedi in the new sequels is supposed to wrap up the Skywalker saga. And I'm curious the way they set up and where they're going from there. Like, how do you wrap up the Skywalker saga when really it's just in Kylo Ren's hands as far as the bloodline and what they've set up? I don't know. Where could they go as far as how do they wrap it up? And it really came down to me because people had said, it's been said like they should have just had the ghost of Anakin instead of the ghost of Yoda, because that would have kind of brought it full circle because it's Vader's story. What else can they do as far as or what do you think? I don't even know what the question is I want to ask, but what do you think they could possibly do as far as resolving everything in the third movie the way we've been set up?
For me, that like after seeing the first trilogy, the second trilogy, and now we're into this third trilogy, after refreshing on the second trilogy, I'm understanding what story is being told around the Skywalkers. Mm-hmm. I ask myself now, are the Jedi truly back, and are the Sith truly back?
Yeah.
Because that's the great turmoil around it, you know? So is Kylo Ren actually a Sith? Because, you know, was Snoke actually a Sith?
Yeah.
Like, if not, who is the Sith Force right now? And is Luke back as a Jedi, or are there other Jedi that are going on? Because we both know right now, Kylo's kind of in limbo and Rey's kind of in limbo.
Yeah.
You know, right now they're just kind of people who are swinging lightsabers. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's you know what it's really going to tell is when they have the trailer for that movie. It would be episode 9. It's really going to tell. I'm actually, after doing this show and kind of revisiting everything, now I'm like, I really need to see this 9 teaser and see where they're, because they have no idea where they're going the way everything's set up. You know,
exactly.
That's like who's Kylo going to throw down the shaft? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Because like, I don't know. I enjoy what's going on right now, but the question, I kind of feel like the reason why it's hard to find a question of what's going on is because it's kind of, what is the point?
Yeah. That's it.
You know,
that's how I feel. Yeah. Yeah, what is the victory we're trying to achieve here? Like, who's the reigning force? Unless it turns out somebody else is Skywalker, if they're going to play that thing with Rey, I don't know, but it doesn't look like it. But just after seeing these movies, I just, once again, I want some more Star Wars, and I'm really hoping the next one kind of concludes this whole saga. And actually, like I said, I like these new movies, but what I want to see is I want to see them have their piece of the puzzle and fit into this thing. That's what I want. I want to see it make this a 9-part saga, because right now it doesn't really feel like that. I don't feel like this third trilogy, the third part has anything to do with the saga. And if you're going to be episodic like that, I think you should. Otherwise, you just keep making your Rogue Ones and Solos, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? But we can't keep playing. I don't think these episodics need to happen anymore if you're not going to,
Yeah, if they're not going to finish or continue on a story. I agree.
Yeah.
Because right now it's kind of like we don't have a point, so it kind of feels like they're side missions,
If that's something they learn, or maybe the best thing we got for us is JJ is going to wrap it up and he started it.
Well, let me ask you one thing. Because I know in the beginning when we first started on Phantom Menace, I asked myself and I asked you, because, one connotation with the prequels is like that they're bad. Do you really think that they're that bad after we watched all 3?
No, not Phantom Menace, not really anything, not Jar Jar. I mean, you can make criticisms, but you can make criticisms out of everything. You know what I'm saying?
Nothing's perfect.
And whatever, the original trilogy was groundbreaking at its time, and there was nothing like it. So obviously, you're going to compare it to that. It's a tough act to follow, So, no, I don't. I'm glad they happened. And look what we have, that expansion of the universe. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have the Clone Wars cartoons and the other stuff. And just all these big things, like even the Resistance coming up. Like, I am really excited about Resistance, because, like, Dave Filoni's going to, now he's going to put his twist on that. Look what he did with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're going to, open up that same gaps there between Jedi and Force Awakens. Now you have that gap of time, and you could just people go in there and take that apart. So yeah, I think after especially watching 3 and just really watching it and analyzing it, it was and the whole thing. Even like I said, I always took it for some reason that 2 was my least favorite, Attack of the Clones, and then when you watch it again and realize the piece of the puzzle. You see the worst of Anakin really in that one. You see not really you see the stuff growing in him. You see the turmoil that started that. So no, I'm like I said, the prequels happen. They happen for a reason, and they tie. And now the sequels. Like I said, I want to see everything come full circle at the end. So yes,
I agree.
Yeah, but Khiim, great. I really enjoy doing these revisits with you. And, next thing we got to look forward to is this next Star Wars Episode 9. So I want to thank you for being on the show, buddy. It's been a blast.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.